Hello everyone, my name is Anthony Cummins and welcome to this. Today we're going to talk about how to take off a samurai's head, or what it would be like. So what I'm going to do is do you a quick sort of put you the image in your mind, and then let's talk about the human neck itself and what's actually inside the human neck. Right, first of all, let's get rid of the idea of the two samurai facing each other, they're clanging swords, they're wham smashing, then one of them makes an incredible feint, the other one falls for it and he chops his head off, and the camera sees the head spin and slash onto the ground. Let's get rid of that idea, shall we, for a start. Samurai didn't really fight like that. Samurai, in armour especially, are mainly fighting with shorter, much more controlled strokes where they're going to be placing it on and cutting, placing it up and cutting. This type of warfare was going on the battlefield. Not to mention that the spear is primarily the number one weapon, so they'd be spearing people first and then chopping their head off. In fact, samurai talk about, Natori talks about the short dagger that you have for the very reason for cutting off people's heads, because you've just stuck a spear in them, to be honest. So let's imagine it. Let's imagine you're moving out, you're on the battlefield, you've got spear in hand, the archers have shot, they've moved to the side, you've entered into the fray, and everybody's colliding. Now you've come to collide with someone and you've got a side helper, they might also have a side helper, and you've gone in, you've grappled, maybe you've done something decent with your spear, you've wounded him and he's gone down, he's dropped his spear and he's gone down. You've gone into what's called kumiuchi, which is a sort of a grappling and striking movement, and so you're grappling and striking with this guy. Now, one of the things that many of the manuals talk about is actually kill them before you take the head, because lots of time people were just trying to saw the head off. They draw this dagger, lift up the cheek plate, the neck plates, and just start sawing at the head. But the problem here is the guy down below doesn't want really to have his head sawn off, so he's trying to go back at you. So it says give him a coup de grace first if you can, and this is what it says. We're going to look at today samurai war stories. I published this a few years ago, but let's have a quick look at what it says here. Article 58 says, to hold and decapitate an enemy, pin him down by sitting astride him, keeping his dominant arm firmly under your right foot. Turn up the helmet plate and then stab him in the throat first, and then hold your wakizashi short sword in a reverse grip and remove the head. You can saw off the head by holding the helmet peak. So let's go for it, right? It's the morning. The other video I did last week was about entering the battle. Now we're in that battle. It's cold, it's morning, you can feel the air on you. You've already got past the major battle section. We're in the middle, where you can feel the weight of the enemy is on you, and they're pushing at you and you're pushing at them. Spears have been dropped, you're trying to put locks on, you're trying to move his head, trying to push him out of the way, but he's doing the same to you. Eventually you get down to your dagger, you've knifed him in the gut, or you've gone up into the armpit, and there's blood oozing out everywhere, and he's getting weaker and weaker, and luckily you've only got a few lacerations, a few cuts on you, he's not hit anything vital. So he's going down, you turn him round, you pin him, you kneel on his right arm, so he's kneeling there, you pull up the cheek, the peak here, boom, that, and you knife him right in the throat, boom, and then you saw outward, it goes out, and then blood's going everywhere. Now if this is an ashigaru foot soldier you've got, you just carry on cutting his head because you don't mind. But if he's a samurai, you're meant to let them bleed out in a coup de grace, so you don't cut his head off while he's still alive. That's the teaching. Or the etiquette of decapitation, if you will. So what you're going to do then is you're going to saw through the head. Now, I've been working with this book, which is a book called by Chris Jarmy, by the Concise Book of Muscles, and I've been going through basically the neck muscles, and I was going to try to be all cool and give you the Latin, but oh my god, is it complicated. I was just studying it for hours the other day, and I'm like, flipping heck, there are possibly 6 to 8 muscle groups roughly. It's so bizarre because some of them are on top of each other. So you think that is a group, you're like, no, those 3 are a group, those 3 are the group, those 3 are a group. So I'm going to put up now a picture of basically the cross section of the human neck. Right guys, just gonna go and look through Chris's book. Get it if you want a book. I always like to promote books and other people's books. But he's going through the muscle structures here, and we start to see the muscle structures of the neck. Sorry, I can't not get my shadow on it basically. There, we've got the muscle structures of the neck coming, they start to come in. All the Latin names are in there if anyone who's interested. You start to see it build up, but it also goes under the trunk, like the trunk of the muscles, they go to the top. More of them, central one, right the way down the backbone, they go through the neck. Right guys, I've not learned how to capture off my screen yet, I've not downloaded the stuff, but I'm at this which is called inner body, which is it's the muscles of the neck. Now we've got a 2D interactive version, which means I can do that. So let's look at the neck muscles. Look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish groups on one side of the neck. So that makes it 14 muscles you're changing through at least, not including skin and trachea and all that, and esophagus. But then let's go to 3D zoom and rotate, which is, I spent a bit too long on this to be honest. So I was zooming, oh, come on, let's load. Can I get a rewind? Okay, it's loaded in. So then I was going through this here, we can move it around. Oh, there we go. So I was looking at all the different ones of the neck. Look at that for awesome. So this was great study. But it just got, can you see the muscle groups inside there? You're going to have to feel all these pinging. You're going to have to stay away from the, what's it called? The ligaments, or try and, you know, cut through them harder. So I recommend you go and have a look at this. As I say, it's inner body. So innerbody.com, and I just put in human neck muscles and it was one of the first to come up. So there's the cross section of a human neck. Now when you're cutting, you've got to go obviously through the skin, which is fine. Then you've got to go behind the trachea and the esophagus or around the area and cut in and cut through, hopefully getting the arteries here and then, you know, the jugular, sorry, and letting them bleed out, so that you've got to bleed them out that way. But then these the mastoid muscles are massive, coming down, big thick chunky muscles, and then underneath those, they're the only ones I remember the names of I was studying. There's ones underneath that go to the clavicle, and they control sort of, if those bits control that turn, they control a certain bit of movement. Then there's ones on the back that go all the way to almost near the shoulder blades, and they come up to the big thick chunk back of the neck. You know when you see those bull-like guys who are like, arr, and you've got this. So when you're cutting through, you must be able to feel like dunk, one's gone, dunk, second one gone, dunk. But it says hold it in a reverse grip like that. So you're cutting through. Then of course you get to the vertebrae, which I think it's between C5 and C7, I think, somewhere around there. Or at least like one starts at the top, but you can't hit one because it'll go through the face. So you're at about let's call it C3 to 7, something like that. Not C3PO, which I nearly said. And you've got to get through that, which I presume is not difficult because the knife would go in between them and cut through the nervous system. Boom, that goes out. So this idea that, you know, you cut in one strike, gone, it's just not realistic. That is when you're doing seppuku, when you're kaishakunin, which somebody who's helping with seppuku, bang, go down, gone, head. But when you're grappling with someone, you're in the middle of a battlefield, you're trying to trip them, you're trying to get them over, then you've got to knife them and kill them. If you've not already outright killed them straight away with like a naginata or a spear, which probably isn't going to outright kill them. It's going to make them bleed and get weaker, but they're still going to come at you or run away, and you want their head, so you've yarried them. Remember, you've got your servants and your men at arms, so you're like, spear, dagger, boom, in you go, down he goes, knee on, cut round and kill him like that. Another story from Samurai or War Stories is Article 45. Now this one is about a samurai called Kinshichiro, and he's meant to be massive. He possessed phenomenal strength that he used to march in a 12-layered cape, and he had golden antlers for his standard. So somebody's carrying behind him, he's got a massive layered arrow cape on, golden antlers reflecting in the sun, and he's like, and he uses a rake. And basically that's a pole with a massive grapple attached, or claw attached on the end. And it says, at the Battle of Sekigahara, he captured and dragged in 10 of the enemy with a rake and had his allies cut off their heads. Then he himself was killed in the battle. So we've got one of those clinching guys. He's got a guy stood behind him in the wind with golden antlers, and he's got an arrow cape on. He's massive. He's got a big pole arm with basically a claw or a rake on the end, and he's going around the battlefield going, right, which one of you bastards is having it? Boom, one in. But here's the important bit. He's not doing the decapitation. He's pulling them in. There you go. And his side eye, we presume it's his side assistant, is grabbing them, because obviously they've just clawed them and smashed them. Probably clawed them. You know, the guy's like semi-going unconscious. Next thing, there's a servant or a side assistant on top of him, dragging him down, going, knifing him in the throat, cutting his throat out like that. And then he does it to 10 people before he dies. So that's 10 heads he would have captured. Now what we have to remember is anybody who's a dependent on him, like a son, a nephew, his next in line, would probably be awarded compensation for this. He would be given the land that would be for those heads. So it's not a waste. He might have died, but his clan would continue, his family would continue, and have prestige. So much so that they were written down in a Japanese scroll that was quite famous, and now they're in an English book to make him even more famous. So this guy who once walked around with gold horns, died on the battlefield, is still being remembered today because he took 10 heads. So how cool is that? Right guys, that was the tour de force of taking a human head. I think we all forget how important it was for samurai to take human heads, and we should be remembered, because they are definitely a head cult. Without a shadow of a doubt, they're a head cult. They worship basically the heads. I don't mean in a sort of ancestral way. They worship the power of the head, as in like, I've taken the enemy's head and it will get me cash. So I would say it's possibly up there above loyalty to a lord, because you find that samurai are not so loyal when they stop being paid, and you get paid by the heads or the achievements you do through getting the head. Right guys, subscribe and like, pass it around, let me know your thoughts, all of the other YouTube things I say at the end of videos. Right, enjoy chaps, and I'll see you next time.